If you're a freelancer or a solo consultant, you know how fast things can pile up. 1 minute you're juggling client work, your own projects and a dozen tiny tasks. And the next, it's invoice day and you're trying to remember what you actually worked on. I've been there. That's why I built a Notion system that keeps everything connected. Projects, tasks, meetings and time tracking all in one place. No extra apps, no guessing hours, just a clear, simple workflow that keeps you in control. In this video, I'll show you exactly how it works and how I use it day to day. At the end, I will also show you how to automatically create recurring items, like a monthly retainer. This can definitely help reduce your workload, so that's definitely worth sticking around for. And if this looks like something that could help you, the template's free on Notion, the link is in the description. Let's jump in. Right, so when you duplicate the template, it's going to look something like this. It's basically plug and play. There's only a few small things that we need to do to set up a template. So we're going to copy this link and we're going to add that link to this image. That completes the home page. So now be structured, name our dashboard. And we're going to change the first client. And we're going to remove this example client. We go back to the home page. We reload the page. And then basically this is it. This is all the setup that you need to do. And now we are going to add our first client. So we're going to go to clients, click add client, and we're going to name this client Bold Studio. Right, and you see that the template has been loaded. All the work items, tasks, time records, meeting notes, they will all start appearing here as we add them. Now you can make this as complicated or as simple as you personally prefer. The only thing you need to do is at least add a work item. So let's do that. Let's say retainer May for Bold Studio. Alright. And now you can potentially start adding billable time directly to this retainer. Let's add some billable time. So time spent on this retainer, let's say we spent 2 hours, and we can say operational work. Right, so this has been added and it also shows up here, it's billable and waiting to be billed. Now, this is perfectly fine. If this is the level of detail you want to go, this is fine. What I always like to do is add a bit more depth into it. So I'll create a simple task and create sort of a bucket for all my operational work. And maybe there's another bucket for meetings. I'll also add that here. And then of course we also need to invoice this. Retainer May Bold Studio. Alright, so I have created a few buckets and also a task to invoice this work item. So now we go back to the home page. We see we've created some tasks. You can also add obviously a due date. So let's put this on end of May. Now, and as we are working on this, so we've had a meeting, let's say 1 hour meeting with operational manager meeting. Okay, and I did some operational work as well this month, so I'll add some time for that as well. 2 hours I spent on updating supplier database and onboarding. Alright, so this is basically how I like to add my hours, and then when it comes time to invoice, I'll start working on the invoice task. Now, it can also be that you work on a more project base. That's gonna work exactly the same way. So let's say Bold Studio, we are working on a project, so we'll add a work item. I will say create new website. Alright, and let's say we are doing this with meetings. So kick off the meeting with this client, with Bold Studio. We can make an agenda, make some notes, and then as we are having this meeting, we can already start adding some tasks. So added a task, and this task will be create initial website design. I can also plan this in. Let's say we're working on this for the coming week. And if we go back to our dashboard, we see create initial design, and I'll also put this behind it so we know for which client it is. And I can add some billable time. Alright, create initial website design, so we spent 2 hours on creating first draft. Now, let's say we are going to have an update meeting with this client. So we see the task, we see the time records up to now, we see our meetings, and we can add another client work meeting. So this is going to be an update meeting. Now, same as before, we have an agenda, we have notes, but we already see our existing tasks. So we can also directly say, okay, I've got this task and this is the work that we've done on this task. Now, during this meeting, maybe this is approved and client says, okay, now we can start working on creating wireframes video. Right, and this is going to be worked on the week after, up until then, and then this task will also appear in our work list, our task list. Basically, this process is repeated up until either the month is done for the retainer or when the project is done for creating the website. And during this time, we can look what we need to invoice. So we have created the first draft. So now we can copy this information to our invoicing software, or if you're good with make.com, you can maybe export it through a webhook. You can make a button that sends information to a webhook. So these are all possibilities, but that's outside of the scope of this video. Let's just mark all open items as build, 1 item, 2 hours. And as I'm then working on this again, let's say we did some more work on creating the initial design, 3 hours, finalized design. Okay, so now we see these items are open again for billing. We can see what we've built this month, what we built last month, obviously nothing. And then again, if you want to invoice this, 2 hours, 2 items, 7 hours, we can continue. And then let's say these tasks are eventually going to be done. Then we don't see them anymore on our homepage, and we see all the tasks are done. Now, for a project, you could also say track percentage, so then you also see on the homepage that this task is 100% done, and then we can close our work item, all tasks closed, all items built, continue, and basically this is repeated for every work item and every task. Okay, now most people hate creating tasks manually. So there's also an option that if you have repeating work items, let's say you have a monthly retainer for certain clients, you always add the same tasks, creating an invoice, some buckets, something like that. Or maybe if you have a project and a project is always created in a similar way, then you can also automate some things. So I'm going to show you one automation. I'm also going to put the instructions for that inside technical setup and maintenance and in guides. So after this video, when you download the template, you can find the guide for adding automations, some basic automations in here as well. So let's start by creating an automation. So we'll name this monthly retainer for Bolt Studio. And I would create a automation for every work item separately, because afterwards, if a client says, okay, no, I don't want to do a retainer this month, you can pause that automation. So you don't have too big automation for all these things at once. Right, so we're going to add a new trigger. We're going to say every month on the first day, we are going to create a work item. Work item and template client work is going to be applied. So now we can name this. So we can say monthly retainer. And we're going to say plus, we're going to add the month. So again, this is going to be in the guide. And then we are going to say Bold Studio. Alright, so every month a task will be created, monthly retainer, applicable month, Bold Studio. Right, then we're going to give it a status. We're going to select the client, so that's going to be Bold Studio. And then the work type also needs to be selected, that is client. And then we also have some standard buckets for this client, so standard tasks. So same thing, we can say operational tasks or work or whatever you want. And we're gonna say page.added, so that would be operational tasks, monthly retainer, May, Bold Studio. And we have to put that inside format to make it text. Alright, now we're gonna add the work item, and the work item is going to be the page we created in step 1. Let's see if there are other things. We can also do a task from to date with a formula, and that's also going to be in the guides. That's a bit of a more complicated formula to get, let's say, the beginning date of a month and the end date of a month, but that's also possible. Now, as I said, also for a project, if you have a similar structure for a project, you can do this in a similar way. Maybe even do it with a button that you put on your client page. So you have a button that you can easily click and say, okay, create a project for me for this client. So I think that's a huge time saver. Now, I cannot show you obviously how the automation would actually work because it's not the first of the month. So I created a button to simulate this. And then we click the button and all the tasks are created. So a monthly retainer and all the tasks that we need for that are created automatically. So I think this is huge time saver, and I think this is something that you could definitely implement. Right, that's it for this video. I hope it's going to be useful. As I said, the Notion template is free on Notion, so go ahead and download it. The link is in the description. And of course, if you like this video, like it and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.